What's up, everybody? So, I posted on my TikTok, posted on my Telegram, a bunch of different pictures, and I explained the significance of how Washington, D.C. is structured. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's Masonic, it's Masonic, it's not Masonic, it's much older than Masonic. It's actually, Greek. And it's actually laid out in a arithmetic and Euclidian fashion. So the pictures kind of explain it. There's a couple pictures of like the Maryland flag, which is the same concept, and there's a picture of Washington, and then it explains that you go to the Washington Monument. Now, what's significant? The Washington Monument is set to the constellation Pleiades. The Washington Monument tomorrow will begin the new celestial season of spring. So we will end our winter, right, which is the death, right, and we will start our march forward. So this is a celestial calendar that the farmers used to use, or the peasants used to use, or the people used to use, instead of the fiscal calendar, which is what the government uses, and that ends on September 30th and then begins on October 1st. And then we have our I don't even know, I forgot what calendar is the one that begins January 1st, right? So there's a couple different kinds of calendars. The reason that the Bible holds the celestial calendar, which is the calendar of the stars, and the constellations, is because that is the producers, right, or the peasants, or the farmers, right? So their season begins in March, and actually it was funny today. I just saw one of the Amish people that live down the road was actually out turning the land, turning his land, because he's getting ready to plant for the season. So to make the point, even the Maryland map is actually algebra. Okay, so you have the four quadrants, right? Washington, D.C., when you take it and you actually put the Lincoln Memorial at the top and you put the Capitol at the bottom, and basically you're turned 90 degrees. Well, when you turn 90 degrees, that's actually out of the Kabbalion. If you read the Kabbalion, when you draw out the earth, wind, fire, and water, it's sideways. It's sideways because it aligns to the equator, not to the magnetic north, which is always moving. So, the Washington, D.C., I don't know if anybody saw recently that the United States Institute of Peace, they were just evicted. They were evicted because that quadrant is now opening up in law. That is the international North American continent, or the North American Continental Trust jurisdiction. The international jurisdiction is for human rights and arbitration. The North American Continental jurisdiction is for is our inter-American, or our inter-American jurisdiction, and then we have a Western hemispherical jurisdiction. Okay, so those jurisdictions are there, and that's where they're opening up, and that's why they're evicting. If you look at the Lincoln Memorial, and they're actually doing a $500 million renovation on the Lincoln Memorial, the back steps of the Lincoln Memorial are called the Water Gate. Okay, so you're coming out of the water, you're going through the gate, out of the water, right, onto the land. Remember, everybody talks about the land? I want to be on the land? We need international jurisdiction to be on the land. that whole quadrant from the Lincoln Memorial to the U.S. Institute of Peace to the Navy Hill, up the hill to the George Washington University, to the JFK Center, to the Watergate building, and on, that whole jurisdiction is international and national jurisdiction, which is our quadrant 1, which is the American jurisdiction. So you have George Washington University, you have the National Cathedral, you have the American University, and you have all of basically the embassies and all of the cathedrals. Like at the National Cathedral, you have the Episcopalian Church and the Orthodox Church, and all the different churches are around the National Cathedral, right? Because that's chancery law, which is American canon law. So the DC is actually set up properly with its proper quadrants of law jurisdiction. Okay? So it looks like with the eviction at the U.S. Institute of Peace that they are about to open up the international and national territorial jurisdictions of law. It is possible that the Lincoln Memorial will become the courthouse. The U.S. Institute of Peace will be the operational building. The JFK Center, that's going through a massive renovation right now, will be the clerk of court or the library, right? Because you got to have a library, you got to have a depository for all the court records that have to go in there. And then the Homeland Security headquarters is actually in that quadrant also, because Homeland Security is now under the National Response Force, or NRF. If you want to see where the NRF is written, you go to a book called Domestic Operational Law, which is how the military integrates with the public in the application of law. So it sounds like good things are happening, because the quadrant we've been trying to get to, or the type of law we've been trying to get to, which is where inside of that quadrant now we can put the American canon law and American common law, and the new domestic law jurisdictions are operational within the United States of America, because that quadrant has to be organized and has to be open. And it appears that we've reached that point. In the U.S. Institute of Peace, they removed all the board members, and they left 3 board members. The one guy is the head of the National War College. The other one is Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And again, that quadrant is where the Secretary of State is, Department of Interior, the National Park Service, all that stuff is up in that quadrant. And that's what's supposed to be there. So hopefully in a very short amount of time, we will start to see our international human rights and arbitration law courts and our American canon law and American common law courts reopening with our grand court at the Lincoln Memorial. That's my guess. We'll see what happens. I might be right, I might be wrong. God bless, Godspeed.